On BBC Radio Kent. Now, the Multi-Olivier Award-nominated play Uncle Vanya, filmed at the Harold Pinter Theatre, will be shown in cinemas from tomorrow. It stars Richard Armitage from The Hobbit as the local doctor Astrov in a production which was halfway through a sold-out run when the coronavirus pandemic forced theatres to close. The cast have come back together again with strict COVID-19 protocols to perform the Chekhov story.
For 25 years, I have managed this estate. You haven't ever once thanked me.
Oh, excellent. And what good does drinking do either of you?
Kills the days.
Oh,
I'm at least as unhappy as you.
leave me alone. You're driving me mad.
And I'm not giving up. I'll endure it.
I didn't force him to achieve nothing. He managed that all by himself.
And would you be happier if your husband was younger?
Watching this, I just thought, you couldn't make this even more prescient for the times. There's a real feeling of it. Even just the opening of the filming with the cast coming back into that theatre.
Interestingly, I wasn't able to be part of that because I'd just flown in from America. So I was in 2 weeks of quarantine. So I had to join the rehearsal at the end of the week via a Zoom where they set up the computer on a little stool on the stage and we had a read through with the cast. I mean, it was awful to sort of not be there, but weirdly kind of appropriate for the doctor who would have been elsewhere at the beginning of the play. But I sort of had to come back in cold and sort of reignite the play. But it was certainly an unusual experience.
And the performance itself, if we think of that Chekhov play, that idea of the opening up of the house and all of that, that really does have a feeling. I think we watch it with different eyes, don't we?
Yeah, and even, you know, in the last week of performing when Broadway had closed down and, you know, it was this thing was coming towards us and we were still playing to full houses. They were all in masks. And, you know, one of the doctor's first speeches in the play is talking about he's been away in the north dealing with an epidemic and losing patients and him being traumatized by it. And I was thinking about all of the NHS staff that were dealing with it. And you could feel the play take on a completely different resonance to the audience in front of them. You know, they were sort of gasping with disbelief that, you know, this was written over 100 years ago. And there's huge sections of it which are about kind of preserving the environment in order that these things don't happen. And it just was uncanny that you know the subject that Chekhov is discussing. So, you know, I hope audiences aren't still too traumatized by the events to not enjoy this, but I think they'll understand it.
The climate is in my power. Someone 100 years from now will be happier because of it.
Astrov makes a really key point, doesn't he, about that early on in the play about the environment and how he's understanding his place within it, and that says something very much wider.
Yeah, and he's also trying to do something about it as a single person that gets out and plants some trees because he's seen this sort of reduction in the natural habitat, and there really was a movement at the time which understood what happened when deforestation occurred. You know that the environment was softer, or became harder and more difficult to live in, which I think is what we're experiencing. It was interesting that people thought these views had been crowbarred into the play in our retelling of it.
I think it is the feeling of the characters too. You have this idea of families being in one place and those associated members, the extended group of friends, and just the personalities as well. I think it's wonderful in this how that it really does tap into that kind of like, oh, that person's a bit like that. Okay, we're going to have to look after that person a bit more than the other.
Yeah, I mean, the play starts in the heat of summer, and these people are all kind of in this house right the way through the autumn and into the winter, and they are going out of their heads with boredom and frustration at each other. And the end of the play, and really the sort of nucleus of the play, is about a man who's about to lose his entire livelihood because it's going to be snatched away from him. And I feel like there are quite a few people that maybe are sort of in that situation right now that are feeling the fear of it. But actually, the final words of Chekhov through the voice of Sonia is this idea of hope and work, and once we're given something to work on, we can kind of retain our sanity. And I think I've used that idea so many times. You know, actors are very, very frequently out of work, and we feel like we're sort of not valid without something to do, and so we're quite good at finding something to do, and that tool has been quite useful in this period, certainly for myself.
There's a richness in it too. There's the human emotion side, but there's also comedy, isn't there? That kind of very quick, sharp-witted bite back from characters.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you term it. I suppose there's a sense of black comedy or gallows humor, but it's these, you know, I think the Russians and Chekhov certainly was very good at finding the kind of quips and foibles of human behavior. And so, you know, even in the depths of tragedy, these people do find time to enjoy each other in a way. So, and that's always a surprise in Chekhov, because you think it's going to be doom and gloom, but it's not. And I understand why the Brits are very good at kind of tapping into that aspect of Chekhov, because even in the darkest of times, we'll still find something to kind of have a chuckle about.
I've seen the NT live productions. Many of us have during lockdown and since. But this is nothing like that. This really does feel filmic. It's done really well. The soundscape of it too just really hits you the moment you start watching.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's we would call it a hybrid, because we worked with 6 cameras in the audience that were shooting at different angles and extreme close-up, and then the crew were able to come on stage with handheld cameras and really get inside the play, which is not possible when you're working with an audience. So even though we didn't have a live audience watching, we gained something else, because, you know, the viewer can come into the play with us, which I think even people that saw the play live will get something extra from seeing it on film. And
knowing that, you know, it did close, cut short by the lockdown, to give it another life now for all of you, it must be. It's not just about, you know, being paid. It's also presumably about just thinking, God, you know, it's such a shame that we had to cut.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, the payment was the sort of last thing on everybody's mind. I think it was just that ability to go back to work, you know, to have somewhere to go, and you could see it. It was amazing to regather and sort of see the crew again, see all of the people that work in that building, the stage door guy, the dressers, and realizing that they'd all been sat at home as well. And there was this energy in the building of, I can't believe we're getting the opportunity to do this.
People are starting to go back into theatres to do things like this, but also film work and sets are, with COVID-friendly measures, are happening. What's it like for you, Richard? What's happening with you?
Well, I mean, on a social level, I mean, I'm now back in New York, but when I was in London, I went to the theatre and I went to the cinema, and it's, you know, if you take the right precautions and, you know, play by the rules, it's a perfectly normal, comfortable experience, and I would encourage people to do it. But for me personally, I'm still beavering away recording audiobooks. I'm starting a new Netflix show next year, and I'm also developing material for screenplay and you know, stepping one foot towards producing.
It's been really good catching up with you. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for bringing us this play with an amazing cast. They're all fantastic. You are brilliant in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice to talk to you, Dom.
If only you could just wake up some clear, tranquil morning and everything, the whole past was forgotten. You could start to lead a new life.
Edith Vanya, dear sweet Vanya, life is beautiful.
Richard Armitage starring in Uncle Vanya in cinemas from tomorrow. Also starring Toby Jones, Anna Calder Marshall and Roger Allam. It is just wonderful. You should definitely watch it.